Probably so.
I've came around that curve just trying to judge where the speed line
Since you're taking a quick
is
break,
going to be.
tell me what's
Yeah.
up.
And if you're doing the speed limit, you're not gonna have any problem seeing that light and getting stopped.
We're good.
The only problem you're gonna have is maybe times when it's real foggy.
Ed, may I
Yeah.
say something? Sure. I made a request, and I talked to Ed about this, to Cully. Additional, like riding in the road, 35 mph. Well, DOT came back and they said, speed limit is not our issue. That's a local enforceable issue, okay? They're obligated to put up speed limit signs per DOT now. So that got tabled. Then I mentioned to Cully, and he's still checking into it, a flashing strobe light on the red lights. Because when it's foggy, you can't see the red light. So he's looking at, you know how they put a little strobe on it? They're looking at doing that. Secondly, I made the request to DOT, would it be possible for us to mount 2 or 3 of those signs that the police department has, the flashing signs that if you, and then you go over a certain speed, it flashes blue lights? Okay, have you seen the one they've been moving around? DOT did give us approval to permanently mount in their right of way. They will sign off an easement. Or right, well, easement, right of way, whatever, for us to mount these signs.
But they don't work permanently.
They can if they've got a solar panel on top.
No, I mean, people start to ignore them.
That could be, but,
They start to ignore them. That's why they move the signs around.
well, and that's true, but this is another,
It's like you stop seeing it.
But what this is mainly being used for is just a warning device to let you know what is ahead, to
Okay.
catch your attention.
right, and so, you know, if they put one right below Green Park and one right after Tanger, but it's just the thought, and I threw it out to DOT. DOT came back and said, yes, we will allow that. Now, the issue with that is each one of these signs costs about $7,000. So, you know,
You can buy one like at Rotary College for free, because I've talked to the manager.
well, then, you know, if it goes forward, get with Ed.
No, we talked about, when we were waiting to mount it, it had to be something that was strong enough to put up.
Uh-huh.
And Al researched it, and the manager there said it reduced speeding.
He said it was amazing. Most people don't really know how fast they're going. Troopers will tell you that. Black Mountain, I just made a little diversion on the way up. I bet they had 10 of those signs in the town. Now, Black Mountain's not a big town, but it said, slow down, you're speeding. Blink, blink, blink.
And you can write whatever you want in the little
That's true.
blurb. You can say, we love our children. or-
Icy road or.
Yeah, so, and they were cheaper than the other thing that gives all the printout.
Well-
So $3,000.
You know, that's, just want to pass it on to you guys.
It's worth.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
we've
it's worth looking into. Anything we can do to deter,
Is that something that we can look at retreat? Because the reason we were waiting was waiting for the poles to come up. The poles had to be strong enough for the wind, and we didn't really have anything. Hopefully, the light poles will be up by retreat.
well, the sign, the company that makes the warning signs also have a steel pole that is permanently mounted to, okay?
Yeah, we wanted to put on something that was there to help the
I
view
just
shed.
always wondered
we
if a
don't need to
larger
get more
speed limit.
poles.
Yeah, we were trying to help the view shed by
Yeah.
putting it on something that was already there, but,
You can't put it on a telephone pole without utilities approval. Isn't that correct?
We won't have many.
That's true, we won't.
I don't know.
Good point.
We'll see if AT&T and Ed.
Eventually, if AT&T and
I'm gonna
Charter
climb up
get
there and
busy.
disconnect them.
Well, that's just feedback from DOT, guys.
yeah,
Pass
thanks for
it,
doing
you know,
that.
Ed,
Well, how about a larger, when you come into Bull Rock from Boone, right there at the shops is a large 35-mile-an-hour sign. The ones on Valley are just the small ones. Does that help at all?
Don't know, I asked Doug Eller that question, and I also asked him if it was possible that we had the authority to change those, or whether we could get them to change them, and he was gonna check and get back with me, but I haven't heard back yet.
I think we definitely need one coming up before Green Park, because they're coming up that curve, and I don't know how they're doing it, because that's a scary road.
That's gonna be a dangerous road right there. to-
They're
to
opening
the
up
church.
right by, the
It's
rock,
narrow,
and then they're taking off.
really narrow.
So that would be one if we could get a bigger one there, as they're coming up, because I don't think they're seeing it.
Soon,
I don't think they see most of them because look at how many, when you have that sign and you have a dozen signs that says merge left. And then you have all these people that just keep driving all the way to the end. And then they decide, hey, I'm out of the road, I need to merge over here. I don't think most people even looking at signs
You
anymore.
know, the problem there is that there's nothing that's coming up that says.
No, they got
there's an
these
emergency.
cars when you.
I found that confusing, the merge left sign, and then you go a mile, well, maybe half a mile.
the extra lines on the road don't help
Yeah.
either.
Right.
Well, yeah, that is a little confusing.
Yeah, especially if it's wet.
Yeah.
Dark.
Would that be something we could look at retreat, and get the information from,
Sure, Tony already has the information on the company that
Okay.
we have our sign from, and he's got a whole packet of information and how much they cost.
The,
did he get the one that you have? Did he get that information?
I gave him the manager's name down there and everything. He actually made the statement that it had surprised him how he had reduced speed. Now, Rutherford Park is a one-street town.
When you go down, I was going down Valley Boulevard a few weeks ago, they had a sign sitting out in front of Woodlands. I'm going down, and the sign's facing the other way, people are flying up through, going south. All of a sudden, little blue lights start flashing on the sign. Brake lights went on. People slowed down, I guess just the visual, psychological perception, oh, blue lights. They actually slowed down.
Yeah.
So that sign is set, you can set that sign with different differentials.
Speak
Speed
in a
limits.
different language. The one that Rutherford called is good. Yeah. Slow
Asian.
down or you'll be shot.
That's a deterrent.
We kill speeders here.
Yeah. We don't call 911.
Well, there is a saying, a TDA saying, come up and slow down. As in, I mean, it means like,
Relax.
you relax, but we could use it for the steam too.
Well, it's not only a detriment to public safety, it's, to me, it's a potential danger to visitors to our legacy town. These
Don't know
people
the
are
area.
blowing through our town.
Well, I agree, and I know that when I am in a place that has that and I see it, my first reaction is to look down and see how fast I'm going. So,
Yeah.
I think it is a deterrent to some degree. The people who see it every day may tend to ignore it, but as we saw in our statistics,
That's not
that's less than 1% of our speeders. So,
You know, when they put do we use those, do the guys put an empty car out there or something?
they don't because we don't have an extra car and they each drive one home.
We have a couple old ones,
Well, they're not marked for police.
they don't have police?
They've taken their equipment off of them.
Oh.
So, but, you know, that's a tactic that they use in some places.
Oh, I see it on the highways a lot.
Think about it, you could almost put any car out there pointed that
Yeah.
direction and they're gonna think it's.
You can go sit out there, Jim.
Huh?
Goes-
Just sit out there,
I could
right
sit-
under the Parkway Bridge.
That is
Is where.
cool.
But I wouldn't be just sitting there, I'd be chasing them.
It's policemen's a,
Yeah.
Can you get 911 on that cell phone?
No.
These are good numbers, so if anybody says,
the next page also
But I know
includes the
that
numbers
works.
for
When you
South
see a
Main.
car,
Um,
it works. That's all I
They
say.
did some comparison, 16 to 2017, the average speed back in 16 was 24.41, and 17, 23.72. The number of reads, less than 17, it was 3,000 compared to 4,500. Top speed in both cases was 44.
And that's what, 25 there?
That's 25.
So they're going pretty fast.
Well, there
Or
are.
19 of both.
You know, the top speed, and if we put, I mean, that's the thing, is that there's gonna be somebody who's gonna violate, they're just gonna totally ignore it, they don't care. And unless we had a policeman stationed every few hundred feet,
Yeah.
we're gonna have an occasional speeder who's gonna do something stupid.
The top speeders are young girls in red cars.
No,
In-
no,
Oh,
empty
come
dump
on.
trucks.
And they're redhead, right?
Empty
no,
dump
no,
trucks.
no.
Troopers will tell you,
And they're
Back off, guys, back off.
troopers will tell you that the most speeders, I don't care what this says, troopers will tell you, I've interviewed several. Women are the number one violators up to 90 miles an hour. Above that, men.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Maybe they're being chased.
The next section there, this is, we're on 214, talks about northbound traffic there at Victoria's Carpet. Average speed there was 24.38, 893 reads in the period of time they had it sitting there. And then we have on page 250, North Main, comparison between 2016 and 2017. The speed limit right there is 25 and changes to 20. I guess as you come around the curve. And the average speed there was 24.4 in 16, 24 in 17, and that's below the speed limit.
The top speed's 20, is almost double the speed limit coming around that corner.
It is 43 and
49.
16 and 49 and 17. So there were almost 28,000 reads right there. Let's see, the next one is radars at Boxwood End. And the average speed going by there was 25.59. And 655 reads for the period of time they had it out there. So, Sudworth Cottage eastbound, average speed there was 22.9 out of 19,000 reads. Green Hill, average speed was 29.3. Number of reads was 1,200. Top speed was 53.
God, how do you do 53 in Green Hill?
It's when you're coming off the parkway and going down that straightaway.
Must be a red woman in a red car.
It's the people cutting through from Boone going to Cole County. They're cutting through and they were bypassing the construction.
Yeah.
And they cut through anyway.
It said the average speed, interesting, between 6 and 9 was 31.66. Still under the posted speed limit. So that's interesting. And that, of course, that's when you've got the traffic. You've got the traffic people commuting to Caldwell, Hickory, twice a day. When y'all bring your children.
I was thinking the same thing. Sue, we didn't know.
Sexist.
Green Hill Road at 1577 north towards the Parkway end of Green Hill. Average speed was 28.6 out of 2,200 reads. Top speed 48.
What is it there, 25 or 35?
35.
200 or something.
So they're on top of it.
While we have people who are speeding, we're never going to stop speeders. There's just no way to do it. And if you've got a handle and are eliminating the majority of them, it seems to me we're doing pretty good. I think there is an opportunity to consider the electronic speed signs, perhaps. Probably the most dangerous place and the most likely place for people to drive at a higher rate of speed is going to be on Valley. You know, when they finish when they get the 4 lanes open from Blackberry to Green Hill, I'm assuming that speed limit to Green Hill is going to change to like the rest of it to 50, so they're going to get there going 50. And if it's-
Wait, in town, it's gonna stay at 35.
Right, when you get to Green Hill.
Oh, at Green Hill, at Green Park Inn, it's 50 going down the hill?
Doesn't that change the city?
If they match the speed limit on the rest of 321 down to the foot of the mountain, it's 50.
I think they're gonna maintain it at 35 down
To
to the,
Blackberry?
Church.
Yeah,
I
St.
think
Mark's
they're-
Church, that's Blackberry Road, that's what I thought.
Let me tell you, that's
Maybe
gonna,
they are.
that's gonna be a dangerous road. It's narrow. They didn't really help the curves.
It's interesting in that, as a long-time traveler to Blowing Rock for the last 50 years, I remember when that was a two-lane, curvy, terrible road and the speed limit was 55.
Yeah.
And, you know, to four-lane it never made any sense to me. How can you make something so much better? Take a lot of the curves out of it, make it much safer, have medians, have shoulders, and lower the speed limit.
Because they figured out that going 55 would increase the accident every time you went up on the
And
speed
that
limit. That's
may
why they
be.
did it. You know, I see these numbers, I just don't want the police getting lax about writing tickets because I think people need to know when they come into our town that we're serious about speeders. And it's just like when I go down the mountain in Wilkes, you know, I know where they're sitting. And sometimes going down the mountain into Caldwell, they'll sit there. So I just,
Everybody slows down when you get to the holiday.
oh, you're not kidding, yeah.
Well,
But,
they
you
move
know,
every now and then.
Yeah, I know.
I just don't want them to say, well, nobody's speeding, so we're not gonna sit out there and not be out there at the opportune times, which is basically when people are out there in the morning.
Tony knows that this is a priority.
Okay.
Tony knows that this is something the council is very interested in and wanting to make certain. And I know it, and they will continue to be vigilant about trying to catch speeders or trying to deter speeding. That'd be a better way to say it, so. But I think there is some merit to those signs. It would be some capital outlay if that's what council wants to do in the future, but
Do you wanna wait until, retreat, or you wanna bring it up now?
Why don't we bring it up in March?
Okay,
I think February is getting out.
Yeah.
okay. I
Now,
think that's,
Now,
because it may take us,
Can we do it now?
we
no,
might,
I'm just gonna tell you what the owner of the Green Park Inn said at one of our meetings, that he'd buy one of those signs.
Oh,
And he
he'll
would.
buy it.
that's great.
I
Wait.
think people
How
walking
about
on
he
the
did?
He
sidewalks
actually said
helps
that.
slow
In
people down.
memory of.
We'll order it when we get the check.
Buy your own speed limit sign.
Get a memorial speed
He
limit
did say
sign.
that.
or not, or,
We're talking about speed violations.
it's
Well,
the mountable,
The
Remark.
mountable sign.
speeding sign.
I
Electronic.
will say one thing that
Yeah.
did surprise us from an emergency services standpoint is that we actually thought that the wrecks would really be increased and the severity of the wrecks would really be increased when that middle part was open, and that never came to fruition. We didn't have.
Well, shall we bring it to council in March?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
We can look at it.
Can you talk to Steve in the meantime?
Yeah, I'm talking to him.
Tony did a comparison between Blowing Rock and some other departments, and in terms of their speeding enforcement, and we write more tickets even though we're smaller. We're more vigilant about going after speeders. So,
I thought we had 4, radar. Now, what we bought,
I don't know.
4 radar. Didn't we buy,
I don't know, that radar, I can't understand what they're saying to me about it.
It may be that we have more. but
Don't have the
maybe
officers.
We don't have the officers.
will you check on that?
We've got
Because I
a new
thought,
officer who probably doesn't have it.
well, they have to go to
They
school.
talked about training them for a year.
Well, it says
we
we've
lost one
increased-
who was one of the operators, and we have a new one on staff who is a rookie, and he doesn't have the training.
Well, it
Is
says
he
we
gonna get
have,
it?
they've increased from 2 to 6, is what it says here. It says the Black Police Department increased the number of certified radar 2 to 6, so.
Yeah, so we have them, we just have training.
Well, you can't have all the policemen that are sitting down there doing radar, but we got the
There's
rest
no
of the
way.
town.
No
The
way.
rest of the town to look after also.
Typically, there's gonna be 2 officers on a shift at night. And we've got 44 miles of roads.
Mhm.
And there's alarms, there's house calls, there's accidents, there's all kinds of things where they've got to be, and, to have someone at the right time, at the right place is just not very likely.
Do we charge for house calls? Do you know how many of those we're doing?
I do not. It is a good number, but it varies. And I'm going to talk about something, not that specific, but something that has to do with that.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
All right, parking violations. This is on 220. There were a number of violations. Over time, you've got a graph there that gives you the breakdown of why people received citations. Most of it was for being parked too long. So parked in the wrong direction, 21%. Parked in a no parking zone, 21%. Parked in the sidewalk or along the street, 8%.
Overtime?
Do we actually receive payment for this? Because I remember when we first moved here that I went in to pay a parking ticket that I got, and they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Paying my ticket," and they were like, "Oh, look at this! Somebody's paying their ticket."
Well, we receive money regularly for parking tickets, so if there's any issue with that, I've never heard of it.
The parking.
I mean, it was like they were going to have a party because somebody paid their. I'm not kidding you. I was like,
But
We don't get
parking,
the money
like,
anyway.
the
No, I was
parking,
gonna
we don't
ask,
get the money.
parking ticket
Okay.
money does not
Money
go to
goes to
the
the
town.
school system,
No,
same as
nothing.
speeding.
or maybe people just mail it in and I walked in and paid it. Maybe that was it. I don't
That
know.
probably was it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I doubt there's many people that walk in.
But it's
Because
usually
the
we don't
majority
get
of
the
the
money.
speeders don't even live here, so.
Yeah.
So Ed, none of the
School
money from
system
parking
gets the
tickets
money.
go to our community.
No. Neither does speeding.
I knew speeding did.
The only thing that you can get out of either one of those tickets is administrative costs. And that's it.
And public safety. We do get something out of that. I mean,
No, I'm talking
people
about
slow
as far as
down.
monetarily,
Yeah.
all you can get back recoup is your
When you
administrative
hear-
costs.
When you hear citizens and visitors complain that we're just trying to line the pockets of the town, you can tell them that's absolutely untrue. We don't even get to keep it. They have no personal vested interest in writing citations. There's no quotas.
And if they gotten a ticket anywhere else, they should know that that's a state law across the state that they all go to the system.
The next slide on 221 gives the number of parking violations the past 3 years, and you can see that the number of violations in 2017 has exceeded the prior 2 years. By last year, almost double from last year.
We added 2 months.
We added 2 months.
We weren't going through November. And I don't think, we were only doing it during certain months. We gave him another like May and.
And he's still not working full-time.
And he's only working part-time, right?
Yeah, he's
He
still
works,
only
so
working part-time, so we still don't have
Thursday,
full-time.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right?
Correct.
Or Thursday,
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And if his allotted time gets up before the end of the month, then he's done with until another month.
Right.
Sometimes instead of doing citations, he has to sit where Sharon sits and take
Right.
phone calls. But,
Well, that's not what we're paying them for. We're paying them to write tickets.
okay, I don't know what that arrangement is and how that works. I know it's very infrequent, but I have seen it do it. So. The
That's interesting.
folks on the street, the businesses, I don't know what you guys have observed, but the majority of the cars I see parked on the street are the business people, and the majority of the parking lots are filled by business people.
Well, I don't mind the parking decks being full because then they're walking. I do have a problem because they're complaining that there's not enough space for their customers. And we need to address this because I think written letters, we've changed some of the signage. I think we've done everything that we could.
I think we can do a positive, there's a friend of mine that has a app on his phone that we could give get everybody, all the, businesses, I mean, cause I park on Main Street, cause my business is on Main Street.
How many in that office?
We've got, that really are there for 'em. But I mean, we've got parking behind our office. We're lucky. A lot of people don't. But if there's more than that there, I'll park on the street. But an incentive, and it could be great, for walking. And it tracks your walking as like a Fitbit or whatever, and give it to the businesses and whoever, give a prize or whatever, and it'll get them off so they have to park in the parking deck and get them parking off the streets. It's really 2 blocks. It's not that far. Like, once I did it, I was like, that was nothing.
Jim, would Gwen do that?
Well, I got a question for you. If the town purchased a tow truck and we started towing cars on Main Street, could we reap some of that benefit?
Well, and it goes back to parking meters. You put a parking meter there, 3 hours, and and make that primo spot and see what happens.
I'd rather see paid parking at the parking garages.
Well, except tax dollars pay for that.
Hmm?
Tax dollars pay for that, so you really,
You mean make them pay at the parking garage?
Yeah.
They'll never park there.
$2 a day or $4 a day? Just a thought. But I think you'd be better off doing that than doing Main Street.
why? It'll
Under
keep the
that-
businesses
Under that
open.
scenario, I would also say that the taxpayers paid for your streets.
And we're trying
So
to
why
get rid
not
of.
let them park there?
Well, they can, but the
Well,
problem
sooner or
is,
later, Kane, you're gonna, and it's just a question of how long you wanna kick the can down the street. You're gonna need the revenue. So sooner or later, you're gonna have to charge like most other people do for parking. And then you say, okay, what's the best system to use? And where do you wanna use it? But sooner or later, you're gonna have to address it. Because it's
Can we
the
get some
elephant in
stats
the
from
room
Vic?
that you don't want to talk about
the what?
or deal with.
That's true.
The what?
It's the elephant in the room. Parking is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. And there's certain times, I mean, I watch it all the time. And Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays until noon, it's a real problem downtown at the park. A real problem, because the people that visit us are parking there. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the people who have little businesses, they don't see any reason why they can't park there, because there isn't that much traffic. I see that, I mean, I can understand that. But we're allowing, in my estimation, parking for too long a period on our busy streets.
Maybe we ought
That's
to bring
the-
that up in our
that's-
spring
that's-
retreat.
So we can talk about that, and you
We,
can spend all the time this morning to talk
We
about it.
changed that.
But I think we better deal with it if you
I
want
was
to.
against changing it when we did it, when it
Pretty
went
soon.
from 2 to 3
It's
hours.
too,
Well, most other people,
We got by.
it's when you have
we
parking
can basically
garages.
park downtown all the time.
I can't tell you whether they are public or private, but like in Raleigh when we go,
What's that?
they actually rent parking spaces for the people that are in the building. They have to pay for it. Now, I don't know whether that's good or bad. But when this town is busy, you're gonna have to do something about shuttles, because there's no place for people to park.
I think we got that on our
And
agenda.
there's no more land.
don't we? We got that on our agenda to discuss today.
Yeah.
We
Anyway.
actually
You're gonna,
had a different parking hourly thing, right? And we changed it, and you can work it right. Park all day downtown, and you don't get a ticket.
I gotta tell you, my wife
We
works.
did it for the restaurants, if you'll remember that, because they said that people couldn't eat in 3 hours, which I think is true. By the time you park, you walk in, you get your seat, you have a drink, and you get your food, it's longer than 2 hours if you're gonna have a relaxed meal.
That's
I
what
don't
my
disagree
point
with
to that
that.
is, Go park in the parking lot.
I think it
You're gonna
exacerbated
Go to a
our
restaurant,
problem.
you're gonna have a 2-hour meal. Use
Well-
use the thing.
Ed, are we done with the?
Let's go.
That's up to you.
Let's go on with the,
Let me say one thing, if the liquor store was where 6 pence is, people would find a place to park.
that being said, can we move on to Public Works and Utilities stockpile? What do you think?
But can we revisit this? Because I think we need to address either parking meters, parking charge.
I think we need, at our spring retreat, would that be good? What do you think?
June, the one we typically,
Is that okay with you guys?
Do you want to do it
Well,
before?
so you're saying we're not gonna do anything before the summer, so what good is it?
Right.
So y'all,
Let me ask one question to Ed now. We gave up 2 parking places in our garage at the Legion for hybrid charging. And Brimco was to put up signage. I've seen those signage.
okay, I'll have to check
I
on that.
mean, is
You're
that
right.
being used? That's 2 parking
There are,
places.
There's signs up
there
there.
are signs on the wall, saying that those are reserved for charging.
I'm talking about, they were to put up signage letting people coming into town know.
Know that we had it,
Yeah.
What my understanding was that there's an app.
there it
If
is.
you have an electric car, you know where it is and they can find it wherever they are. However, there were non-electric vehicles parking in there, and I talked to Ed, and I said, this is not fair, these people are parking in there, and they get tickets.
For a while, they only had one sign up because it was a car that had been parked there 30 consecutive days. We had it towed.
it was on a slow charge.
And it wasn't an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to bring the parking thing up in March?
No, it's June.
No.
Well, I
We're
mean, are we
thinking if
gonna
we're
do
gonna do
anything?
anything about it.
I mean, you mean at a regular meeting?
At a regular
Yeah.
meeting.
As
Sure.
long
That'd be
as we
good.
bring our.
What we gonna bring up?
Bring up there.
We're gonna bring up, we have a problem. We're gonna bring up what we've done to address the problem, the response to that, and then looking at alternatives, either charging for parking deck, charging for Main Street, charging for Sunset. We still have some teachers that are parking on Sunset.
I guess that's, yeah, but
But
don't
they're
just
not there on
blame the
the
teacher.
weekend.
Because
That's when we
why,
need the parking.
don't just blame the teachers, because I've noticed help
Oh, yeah.
that works in the restaurants
Right, that's
and
true.
changes beds, parking on the street,
Yeah, that's true.
and take the pails out of the car and walk into the
Yeah.
thing. So don't, it's just
You
not
have
the
to ask yourself,
teachers.
where else would they park?
The reason I said that is that we had addressed the
I don't know.
issue with
I
the
don't
city.
either.
I don't know where they park.
What, so so are we gonna talk about putting in, parking meters? Is that
I think the first stage, what we need to do is discuss the feasibility and legalities of charging for the parking garages.
Well, and I'd like to look
You
at,
can charge.
nobody's gonna park
You
there?
can charge.
Oh, yes, they will.
You can charge in the
You
parking.
go down to
garage.
Raleigh, I don't think twice about pulling in, grabbing my little ticket, okay? You go into Baptist Hospital, parking garage, you pull a ticket, you don't think twice, because you're not paying $20, $30, $40. I think maybe the best way to start this is to bring it up, okay? And see what consensus is.
but I think we need to bring up about parking on Main Street, because if you're gonna charge for the decks, you're gonna.
I do it
have
two
them-
stages.
More on the street.
Right.
You'll have more on the street. The other issue is we could cut a deal with businesses that you pay so much a month and you get a permit.
No, then you're gonna have every business parking on, everybody, every employee parking on Main Street.
No, I was thinking in the decks. You wanna push them toward the
It's back,
decks.
where are they gonna park? Where are they gonna park? That's the problem.
Well, you keep in mind, right now, it's already got the electronic gear set up that tells you whether the parking lot's full or empty. And,
You can't do a permit for somebody for the parking deck because that's a public parking deck. And
that's true.
if that deck's full and I've got a permit that says for I can park there, Well, you gonna pull somebody out of a parking place so I can have mine? You know?
Well,
Can we, is there a
Same as
legal way
age.
to get the cops to run the tags and see who's parking on Main Street? Cause if it's the
That's been
town,
done numerous times.
I mean, if it's the town, people that live in town, then we need to figure out what to do. But if it's tourists, then, you know, I think we don't know who it is.
I was going to the post office.
Can we do
It-
that?
9
It's a
o'clock
very
one morning.
time-consuming effort to walk down the street and bring up a computer and look up every tag number and.
And what,
But I had-
and
but
what
that-
difference would
I
it
mean,
make?
that-
It's
what-
public parking, what difference would it make? It's public parking.
Well, we.
Let me ask you something, let me ask you this question while you're
$6,000,
talking about it.
$6,000.
Why does Boone charge for parking in
Because-
those lots that they own? City, how do they do it?
They've got an actual meter boy in some of them.
That's not my point is, they charge,
Mhm.
and it's publicly owned land,
Sure.
it's theirs. So I don't think I need to get an attorney to find out whether I can charge
Well,
for parking.
We can definitely do it.
The
I-
question
no,
is, whether you want to or not.
The thing about Boone was they figured out it's the students that are parking on King Street. And I don't know if they sat there and watched them or they ran the tags, but they found out it was the students. And the businesses were not getting any customers because the students were parking there. So I was saying, who's parking on Main Street?
The
Is
business
it
owners.
the businesses?
Yes, I
Are you
watched-
sure about
I
that?
watched 3. I watched somebody going to Finley House, I watched somebody going to Tweeds, and I watched somebody going to the Brass Exchange. And they parked on the other side, they saved their front, but they parked on the other side. And that was at 9:30 one morning.
So we need,
So I mean, just transfer students to workers, business, and on Main Street, and we got the same scenario.
well, they solved the problem by putting those meters on King Street.
Right.
And it
Wow.
pushed the owners into the students into the lots, and it pushed the business owners, because they're not gonna pay an hourly rate, so they park in the parking decks.
And the other thing is that, because I have a house there, is right off of Grand, which is King, and then you go up Grand, 1 block, and that's the neighborhood. So they didn't want parking, but the students were parking up there. So what did they do? Neighborhood said, here, all you people that own houses, you get 2 stickers per house. Right? Without a sticker, you're either towed or you get a ticket.
All right,
So there's plenty of ways to do it.
I
You just have to
know
choose which one you
but
want.
I'll never go back,
Yeah.
ever. Because the meter was malfunctioning. Go down there and try to get yourself excused for that.
Yeah, you
you
can't.
tell them who you are.
Well, that's the personality. That's the
All right, so we're
personality.
gonna bring that up.
I will not
Then
mimic
March-
Boone in any
I think you
way,
should,
shape, or form, ever.
No,
You never
how much
liked
the
the
parking
green
meters
No.
cost.
Yeah, if you
I'll
can
tell
just
you
give
how it
us
really
info on
I
that
mean,
Doesn't
and
remember-
retrofitting our.
But if that's the way the conversation is gonna go, then we should know what a parking meter costs, and we've got
Even if you were
to.
gonna do it, I don't think parking
No,
meters
that's
is the way
right.
to do it.
No,
No.
not on Main Street.
What do you think?
No.
Kiosk, you go to the corner, you put in your parking space number, you
But you still charge them.
put in your credit card and tell it how long you want to park there, and
They do that in Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
they do it.
I don't
In
think
Atlanta, they put.
we don't want a bunch of meters on Main
No.
Street on the
Oh.
sidewalk.
License.
We need to be spending that money
Driver's license.
towards sunset and infrastructure.
If you wanna go to parking
Well, you can do the
meters, use
kiosks.
your vehicle.
Give us our.
Well, but if
Give us options.
if it's the tourists that are parking there, then that's when you bring up a shuttle idea that
And that's,
goes around.
that's in our agenda. Okay, shall we move on to Public Works?
All right, next thing here, Public Works, I don't know, I'm assuming you've all read this, I'll just go over it brief. They just wanted to give you a report on some of the things they've done. They've gotten rid of the old tar building and the debris that was at what one of our citizens sent you an email and called the Mayview dump. It is much cleaned up from when I know I started. It still has a ways to go.
That's
I think
mainly Sue.
that's what,
Thank you, sir.
That's an attaboy, Sue.
we,
Remember that.
we had been, well, let me just go through this and see if, debris and waste accumulated from water leaks and road repairs are hauled to the landfill monthly, so we're not just dumping it off there. The leaves, that they had been putting there for years, we got a contractor to come in who wanted the leaves. Unfortunately, we reached a saturation point where he said, we don't want any more leaves. Anyway, we got a lot of years' worth of leaves taken out of there, and they are currently, they have found another off-site collection point. You know, in the budget, we had allocated some money to building a small storage building on that site. There have been some on-site constraints that have hindered our moving forward with that, at least at this point. There's a large culvert that runs from the west side of the property to the southeast. And it carries a creek under Cone Road. And there's also a sewer line that runs along the north side of the property. And we're looking at our options, and we're looking to see if there's any possible way that we can find room to put that storage building at the Public Works building site instead of at that Mayview site. So we'll
Can
get-
any of this go in the new building out by the wastewater treatment plant that was redone? Any of that stuff?
No,
Be unhandy.
yeah, I mean, if they had to go over there to get all the pipes and fittings and.
A load of gravel and
Gravel.
everything else.
Where are they using the pipes and fittings? Aren't they using them in the town? Why couldn't that go out there?
It's possible, but I suspect that I'd probably get some kickback on it, we can ask.
Who you asking? They want it out there, but they're still gonna have to drag it into town.
But the thing about it, if I'm going to get a load of gravel and I'm going to get this, it's nice to get it all in one spot. I don't want to go here and then run down.
Does
here
gravel
and
have
then
to be inside?
No, I'm talking about, not the gravel, I'm talking the fittings and everything. If I'm working on a water leak, I'm going to get a load of gravel, I'm going to get what I need to fix that water leak, and I'm going to one place.
Why can't you have it out of the wastewater treatment plant?
But there's
That's my
not
point.
enough room for gravel piles and all that.
Not
down
behind
there. No.
You got vehicles,
It's pretty
loader in
limited.
there.
It's pretty limited and narrow to be able to turn
How
around.
many of those
and
dumpsters do you still have out there?
just,
I don't know.
You want to discuss the sizes of those dumpsters?
I can't tell you for sure how many are there, but the ones that we were holding from, Baker's the new company, the other company are still there. We have ordered the new dumpsters, and I don't think they've arrived yet.
So that's where they're
Did they come
going?
in?
Just arrived.
Just arrived.
So what do you do with the old ones?
We'll be giving, those, I'm sure, back to the other company at some point. Phillips.
Call them up and say you got until such and such a time to get them off our property.
I hear one here, Joe.
And I haven't talked with Mike about his plan for that. I'm sure he already
Okay.
has one.
Yeah.
And that next paragraph just talks about what I was already saying about the possibility of putting the storage shed closer to the new public works facility. The goal there would be, if we want to totally clean up that site and never use it again for anything and figure out something else that can be done with it, then everything that has been going there has got to be relocated. Now, there's not that much now that they've gotten a lot of this stuff out of there. But I guess there's a future conversation that needs to be addressed regarding that particular piece of land and
What do we
how
do
we
with it?
want to use it going forward.
I don't think that was the issue. Did you ever see it before?
No, when
I
I saw
can
it,
give
I
you
think it
some
had already been
pictures.
partially cleaned up.
Yeah, it was horrible. They had not taken care of it. They were dumping stuff. It was nasty looking.
Well, as you well know, back in the day, you know, there was no development over there. Not like there is now.
How much?
How long has
big
George
is it
Sedgwick been out there?
That the
Oh,
town owns
gosh,
it?
he's been out there for 30-some years, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's been there a long time, so.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to get, I mean, we need something close to town if we use the fire station differently, right?
Hmm?
I'm not following.
If, she's talking about if we
The
quote,
cha-
give it to the theater group.
The chamber's looking into a
Oh, the old fire
feasibility,
station,
y'all got
yeah,
the chamber
okay.
to look into feasibility of using the fire station
No, no,
differently.
no. We didn't get that. That's incorrect.
Okay,
They asked for a year to decide, could they do it? If they wanted to do it, could they afford to?
okay,
We gave them that.
And
okay.
they're looking at that and the auditorium, trying to work with the school system on the auditorium.
What I would say is that on that Mayview site where we have been using this for things that we shouldn't have been using it for, once it is totally cleaned up, if we do find another location to put a building, which may not be practical, then what is the future of that site? Is it something we're going to continue to totally clean up and seed it in grass? Or
Surplus it and sell
are we
it.
going to sell it, or, you know, what are the possibilities? So that's not something that we have time to discuss right now, but those are the kind of things that we'll be
But
driving.
those are good things to look into over the next 12 months.
The next is the white line striping. We've got an opportunity here, something we discovered. The white lines are continuing to be painted on all the town streets as weather permits. Obviously, we're not probably gonna be doing anything again, at least until April, unless we have some really unusual weather. About 50% of the streets have been done. We think, we understand correctly that town council's directive was that you wanted white lines on all the roads regardless of whether we could put a center line or not.
Correct.
A lot of the roads are not wide enough to put a center line, but,
Correct.
so edge markings are a possibility, and we're looking at that. There is a subdivision, that they had asked not to have the white lines. However, they're town roads, so we'll have to look at how we're gonna handle that. But we also have, if you've been on a lot of streets, if you've been to Seven Devils, if you've been to Beach Mountain, and the DOT experimented with glass beads in the lines on the road and on the guardrail, we have found out that we have an opportunity to make a change here. It's not a substantial change in money, but the company decided that we were putting our paint down 2 million on the roads. All right, so we're gonna address that. They think it needs to be increased to 15 mils.
Based on what information? Is there somebody done a study and said?
There must be a best practices that they have addressed with Mike.
Don't we have a paint machine?
We do.
And it
And we
only
can
puts
change.
out so much?
Well, you can change, it's
You
got
can
lots of
regulate.
settings, so you can make the lines thicker, wider.
Why
And I
did
can
he
tell- And
change?
I can tell you that they are better. The new ones are, but they're thicker and they are much better, and you see them a lot better than the old ones.
One of the things y'all all know, we have a problem that we have to scrape our roads. And
Yep.
every time you scrape a road, you're taking the paint up. So, but, they think that if we increase our paint thickness, that it'll last longer. And they recommended that we might want to consider using glass beads in our paint mixture
Would that reflect?
for reflection.
That's neat.
And, so we thought, okay, well, that sounds really interesting, you know, what would it cost us to do that? And we found out we would have to buy a hopper that goes on the side of our paint machine to handle the bag of glass beads. They come in a 50-pound bag, and the bag is $30, and the coverage rate for a bag applied properly is gonna be about 2,000 feet. So about 2.5 bags of glass beads per 1 mile of road. So that is not a very substantial amount.
It would help in fog conditions.
Yeah.
For the reflectiveness that you're gonna get out of it. it's well worth it.
Anything is, if you've got a thicker line with some reflectivity from the glass beads, it's probably something that we ought to experiment with.
What's the total amount of roads we got?
43
is it
miles.
40, how many?
You just told us, I wrote it down,
46.
43 miles.
43 to 46, something right
And
now.
how many roads don't have white lines?
About 50%, they said.
That was a year ago that we asked him to paint the white lines. Is there a reason that he hasn't followed through on that?
I can't tell you what the reason was. I know that they have been following through since I've been here, but it is slow. They have water leaks, and it's not like they can set a crew to go out and paint lines, and that's all they can do. So they're constantly interrupted. They have to go read meters. They have to go fix water leaks. They have to go sweep the roads. There's just a number of things that Public Works does that keeps them from being focused for very long on any one thing. So we could use a couple more people.
Was that in the budget?
No. But I mean, we don't want to do that. But I don't know, sometimes I think probably ought to have a couple of part-time people if we had somebody that's willing in our good months. But anyway, the glass beads is a topic that we'll ask you again about, but I think it's a good idea to experiment with it. The only drawback is to experiment, we've got to buy the hopper.
Let me ask you this, Ed. Have you all, I'm sure you have, you looked at subbing out the white lines?
I think they've done that in the past, and that was why the town bought a paint machine.
So it wasn't cost effective.
Well, some of the ones that we did have subbed out, if you would look at some of the jobs that we saw, they may be 6 inches from the road here in one spot, and then plumb off the road in the grass in another spot, you know.
That's true. I just think they painted over leaves.
Yeah.
It's $3,225.
Okay, pointless.
Does that include the hopper and the large paint tank?
I didn't add the hopper.
How much?
I added per mile, a bag per mile, so
It's 2.5 bags per mile.
plus 1,200 is 4,400. Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't know what y'all do, but when the fog is really bad, that is my lifeline, is those lines.
That's true.
And then I roll the window down because I can't see,
You close
so
the
at
eye.
least I can hear, you know.
You drive by the line and you get scared to death when there's a road turnout, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I lost my line, yeah.
I'm going off the cliff.
But I think that's a small price to pay. I don't know. Do we need to,
That's per year.
per year?
You have to redo them every year.
No.
Pretty
You
much.
don't have to
it-
buy a
you-
hopper every
not.
year.
You
You
might
may
not
not
have
have
to.
to.
It's a center
They're
line.
saying they may not have to do it if they fix
You got
it.
the thickness.
May,
Hey, we don't know that.
but sooner or later, it looks like
50%
that.
of them aren't even done, and it's been a year.
And a
Well,
lot
and
of
the
times
hoppers
if
are
you have a
one-time
mild
charge.
winter, you're not gonna have to worry that much about salt and snow either.
If you do it several times with that, what do you call that stuff?
The beads.
The glass
The
beads.
glass beads.
They're not gonna go away, are they?
Well, yeah, they'll be scraped up just like the
They
paint.
rub off.
Don't scrape the roads.
That'll show.
There we go.
That would be good for the roads. Might not get citizens for it.
You wanna move with me? Never move south.
All right, so we can ask you again coming up, but staff thinks it's a good idea to consider this. And if we improve the reflectivity, it is a safety component, so.
I think that should be considered for an agenda item instead of putting it off for some further study.
Well, they can't really do it this year, is
Well,
what.
yeah, they can do it this year.
If we
They-
have a few
It's
nice
spring,
days.
huh? They
No,
start.
I mean, you said this year, 2018
Oh,
just began.
yeah.
Can they do the roads that haven't done first?
Sure. And they would.
To kind of test it out. We can
No, just
drive
to
it.
get
No,
the
just to
white
get
lines
the white
on.
lines on the roads that
Just to
hasn't
get
been
them
done
off.
yet.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get the white lines on the roads instead of
Yeah.
going back and doing
Can
the
we
ones
put it
that
on
are
the
done.
agenda so we can move on?
Yeah.
Right.
Push it into February.
February.
Oh, my Lord.
Well, it should be quick.
We're saving bags.
It should be a quick
Yeah.
discussion on this.
Let's get
Yeah.
some
Discussion.
sandwiches for February.
All right, so the next, shall I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Next thing is,
Ducks and swans.
Only in
I'm going to the bathroom.
First world problems.
the way, where this came up was, we had a citizen who observed that we had a lonely swan and some ducks. And wanted to provide a feeding station,
Yeah.
one of these vending coin-operated things,
When you were.
and put it down by the lake. And I thought, that is not a good idea.
Then we're gonna get more.
What do we do when we kill that swan because it's overfed?
You can also induce bacteria through the hands that could possibly kill the swan, or what
That's
we're
true,
putting in it.
yeah.
It could be if we're filling it.
So like a zoo, is what?
Well, I think that there's a person, I think in Banner Elk that has a business who is a close friend of the person who is interested in having this. And that person has offered to donate a feeding station.
But not the feed.
But not to feed.
What do they eat, corn
and-
or something, or?
I don't know what you feed ducks and
Swans.
geese.
A goose?
Well, I would suggest X-Lax.
Well,
I don't think they have a problem.
let's just all remember, Chitola had a goose problem. Did everybody remember that? And
So did the country club.
Sure.
Do you remember the country club had it out on their golf course, and
Well,
they got
true.
the dogs?
the cure to the goose problem, so-called, was these swans that didn't like geese. Well, they got swans at Chitola. And the swans and the geese became friends.
What do we got now? What is it called?
And a double problem. And, you know, the border collies took care of some of it.
Yeah, that's what they put out at the country club
But my call about this was about
because I heard it.
the swan getting cold.
Yeah.
Now, I
It goes
would
on here.
support a little wild area, maybe on that first little small lake.
You would support it.
Well, just let it grow up in one place. That's where those animals go when it gets real cold.
Those animals, those geese go wherever they want to go.
Well, they
They're
do.
on golf courses, they're at Bass
I
Lake.
mean, read the Bible. I know you haven't, but it's called bulrushes. Bulrushes.
Man, I'm telling you that they are dirty. And you go out to Bass Lake, and it's like, between that and the Meadow Muffins, I can tell you that it's
What?
quite an experience.
What the hell's a meadow muffin?
Well, I support bulrushes over a
You know,
house.
when they are,
No, that was a meadow muffin.
what do you suppose cows and horses do?
That's a meadow muffin.
That's a Meadow Muffin.
You
Alright.
skip
Should we,
Getting
is this
the-
something that we have to, we
Spending
don't
a lot
have
of
to put
time
on
on
the
it.
agenda, or can we just,
So really, what they want, what somebody's requested, is a feeding station, but do they
But
want,
they also, then it came back later, that they observed it was really, really cold, and they thought the ducks and the swan, one, they think the swan needs a mate.
Can this person help with our parking, marking our parking spaces? This person has way too much time.
So thinking that there needed to be a mate, and that there needed to be a house for the ducks and the swans when it's cold, because, just be, can you be humane to a duck and a swan? You gotta be swamane or duckane.
they're fine, that's what they got
No,
feathers
that's-
for.
So
okay,
our,
we've been looking at,
we talked about this among staff. Staff thought it's not a particularly good idea. We don't like the idea.
Thank
It's
you.
just, we think it'll create more problems.
Well, that's a
It'll
good-
create a lot of
Bad.
problems
Not
on the ground.
zoo, yes,
what concerns me is when you start feeding them,
yes.
we're
They
also
get
gonna
aggressive.
attract other animals as well,
Right.
raccoons, let's just trade them. And that,
Can we just ignore this?
We don't need a motion, we just, it was for FYI, and we're choosing not to do it anymore.
That's right.
okay.
As
So
beautiful
can-
as the
Dead
Legion is.
issue.
I think we ought to move on to our
You will get
miscellaneous
a call
items.
for an answer, so what will the answer that we direct Ed?
Uh,
We direct Ed.
The staff and
think-
the council aren't interested
No,
in your
It was
duck house.
presented.
It was presented from a health and possible other rodent issue. We felt like it was best for nature to take its course.
I don't know.
There's the-
Swan will meet somebody.
But you know, there may be a reason he doesn't have a female.
How do you know it's a male?
Didn't they say it was a
I
man?
don't think they said
Oh.
gender.
Charlie, I think you'd have to defend that.
Right.
They
And
know.
why can't we just say we take it under advisement?
Okay, let's see what else.
You don't have to defend that.
Chris is crazy about
There's two Schwans.
But, you know, Sue was looking for affordable housing.
Put it on the priority list.
I think it's very low.
Okay.
All right, and that gets us to the miscellaneous topics.
Okay. Is that
I didn't
your
use the gavel.
Where is it?
He left it at home.
It's right here.
All right, one of the
You
topics
wore it out
that
already.
that we've been asked to take a look at was that, and I'm on page 225, the town does not currently have a policy that requires an education minimum. The personnel handbook policy is silent on requiring employees to have a high school diploma or GED. In this day and time, most all employers require at least one of these, and it's been suggested that Blowing Rock should require one of these as a minimum standard. I can tell you that we went back and did some research because it was thought that this had been addressed in the past and that a policy change had been made, but we could find no evidence in talking to the people who were involved that there was ever any decision made regarding a change, but that it had been talked about in the past. So I can tell you that there are a number of small issues in our personnel handbook that staff are working on that we want to present to council to be considered for change. And as far as council having a discussion on this and whether this is something that you think needs to be implemented into the personnel policy, that's totally up to you if that is something that you're interested in. And I see no problem with having that as a minimum standard, just so long as it is not retroactive.
Well,
So for
to
any
me, that's
future
not-
employees.
So, that sounds like we have some employees that don't have it, and I wouldn't wanna
Yes, ma'am.
discourage future great employees that don't have it to not apply for, a job with our
Second.
town. What?
Second, I know we're not, I'm not just kidding, we're not gonna make that anything. but
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, there
I
are.
agree with that.
There are some people that have amazing skills that don't perform well in the classroom and that could be a real asset to our town, and I would hate to, for us to miss out on that.
Are there any legal, is any insurance, anything like that falls into play here?
No, I don't think so.
What about a department head? Would you think that they would need a GED or a high school diploma?
I think that's for the staff to discuss, but I'm thinking about
Entry
entry
levels,
level positions. And we've got, at the high school, there are other, certificates and things that you can get besides a high school diploma and a GED that are really great skills that I think would apply to our town jobs. It might be
We've
a
had some great employees in
mechanical.
the past, and we still have a few employees that work there now that do not have this.
There's only one.
Right. And I consider him a good employee. So on an entry level, I'd also would say I'm not a good.
But I think,
employee
for
with this.
somebody that's supervising other people, you need to look at a minimum standard.
That's a different,
That's a
That's
we're
different.
talking entry level.
Entry level, I agree.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of
Entry level,
little
yeah.
summer jobs that Parks and Rec has for teenagers and,
Those would not be considered, we're talking about
We're
permanent,
talking,
full-time employee.
I think you said there were other staff issue, like with the handbook. Can we do that all at one
The
time?
things, yes, there are a number of things in the personnel manual that I think are incorrect. They should, the handbook the town had before this most recent change was superior, in my opinion. And I think there were some changes made that we want to at least bring up to council and see if you concur that some changes are warranted. So we're not discussing that yet. That's going to come, and this if we were going to make a change on this, that would be an ideal time to have that brought forward as well. So I guess for right now, it's informational, but if there is a desire to adopt some language that says, you can't advance beyond a certain point without a specific minimum standard, or if it's meeting a minimum standard to be hired at all, or whatever. So that'll be a council to decide how they would want that to be worded.
When are y'all gonna be completing the policy manual?
I would hope within a couple of months.
If you did the policy manual, I'm in agreement with Virginia. We've all worked a lot of people, and I've seen some people that are very, very intelligent and not worth a darn in school, and got common sense more than I do. But if you did that, you'd probably have to say, to proceed to a supervisory role, you would need to have the equivalent GED or.
I don't think if one doesn't have it, I think the town should pay for them to go back to school.
Well,
And
that'd
give
be
them
incentive.
6 months, I
Yeah.
think, then they have that opportunity and the town would pay for it. I don't think they should be penalized for doing that, but I think it would give them the opportunity to come up to standard.
But yeah,
Well-
that'd be an incentive for someone to.
Let me just say that each job classification has a set of criteria, and you handle the educational thing in each one of those job classifications. So that if the manager, et cetera, determines that those jobs require a certain level of education, we should put that in the job description. And if the person who wants to apply for that job, hopefully they can read, say that's what the job
Have
requires.
you looked at the
You don't have to say anything about entry level. If you have an entry level job,
Is it-
like some of the ones that you're talking about here, right here, that can be, depending upon what
It
job
says-
it is,
It
you can
says,
say you don't have to have anything more than this. And as far as education, paying for somebody's education, you can determine to what level we are willing to sponsor that, okay?
We do it for the-
Scholarship fund.
We do it for the water
Either
plant.
of some of it or all of it, but you don't have to decide that now. You can decide that later. If you want to send a kid back to get his education, a person back to get their education, and it's going to cost money for them to do that, and he wants to do it, I personally believe they ought to have some skin in the game.
But when it
Even though
comes,
it may be minuscule.
when it comes to the water plant personnel, we do, if I'm not mistaken, we do pay for their continued education, do we not?
That has to
Water
do
plant
with their
personnel,
job.
grade 1, 2, 3.
Right, those are specific
For the
designations
job.
and
Why, their
There's
jobs.
nothing about their GED,
No, but I'm just
has
saying,
nothing to do about getting a 2-year college education.
no, you were mentioning job descriptions.
No, but most of those
Then I moved on
classes-
to how do you pay for their education if they want to move on. And let me just give you an example. Somebody, you get to a level and you say, geez, we'd really like to have you have a high school education. I says, I don't have that yet. Would you like to get promoted? Yeah, well, you need that for this job. Well, that means I have to go back to school. Okay, the town's willing to pay a little bit of this for you. How much can you pay?
You have a vested
Okay,
interest.
and then help them get that job. Help them move up. I'm all for that. And the same thing would be true even to the next level.
Yeah.
This job requires a 2-year associate degree. Caldwell, wherever you get, fine. We want to encourage you to do that.
Mhm.
How much can you pay? It costs $3,000. Can you pay 1,000?
This just says
Anyway,
a
there's
minimum
ways to do
standard.
it, gang.
I mean, do you want that on the agenda, that we vote, that we have a minimum standard for a high school diploma or GED? Or do you wanna bring it all with the other
I
stuff?
would prefer to bring it all at one time with the other
Let's do that.
changes that
That's a
we're
good
going to
idea.
look at in personnel manual.
Okay.
Look at it.
So can we expect that by April?
Okay.
I think you can.
Okay, good.
Pickleball.
Pickle.
Pickleball.
Pickleball.
This activity has obviously become more popular and people are looking for places. Right now, they've got an arrangement where they're actually playing during the winter at the school. The principal there, I guess, has allowed them to mark off the court on the basketball court. And I think they are allowed to play there at specific times. I don't know what those times are. Pickleball courts are a whole lot smaller than a tennis court or a basketball court. Right now, we have 2 pickleball courts. They are both painted on the basketball court, which means if somebody's playing pickleball, you can't play basketball, vice versa. The basketball courts are both in poor repair. They're both in the bond referendum. One of them at $25,000 to repair, the other one at $70,000 to repair. So those are, if you redo those totally, are we going to continue to use those for pickleball courts, or do you see a need for pickleball courts, or do you see a need for basketball courts, or there's lots of different ways to go at this, but equipment that you buy to play, you know, we have rackets that you check out the ball in the net, and they're self-standing. So I've heard a number of people, including council, talk about pickleball courts, and I know that citizens approach council about the pickleball courts, and some people have suggested that we move them over onto the tennis court. We can't do that because our playing surface on the tennis court is got AstroTurf on it, and you need a hard surface for pickleball. And the reason it has AstroTurf on it, that was a stopgate measure because the tennis courts are in very bad repair. There's lots of cracks. Cracks have been filled. The cracks keep expanding underneath the AstroTurf. So we also have I don't remember how much money we got in to redo the tennis court, but we got money to redo it as well. So I guess the question here is does council desire that we seek a way or different locations to put pickleball courts? Are we willing to explore the possibility of buying real estate to kind of shift and move things around? Jim had at one point talked to me about, you know, maybe we ought to move the basketball courts and just have pickleball courts over there, move the basketball courts somewhere else.
Can we, when we go to redo the tennis courts, can we retrofit them to do tennis and pickleball by changing the surface?
We have
Yeah.
5,000.
$5,000 for the tennis courts.
So by changing the surface, you could actually, you know, by making it a hard surface, because you could do pickleball and, I
That's
have
what they do
never.
at Chatola.
That was what they do?
Yeah, they have their tennis courts, they have
The lines do?
the lines also for pickleball, so
That's pretty common.
I think that would be
But if we're
better.
gonna redo the tennis courts, that's the way to go.
Yeah,
Well, the amount that we've got in to redo the tennis courts, probably, I'd have to talk to Doug and them, but I don't think it would be sufficient. You said 5,000?
Yeah.
That was to fill the cracks, but the
That's-
cracks keep expanding.
That's not to totally resurface the tennis courts.
That's not, that was to inject through the AstroTurf into those cracks and try to fill them. So that would be a measure to continue to use the AstroTurf service. So
yeah,
we're
except
probably-
there's also 80,000 in there to fix that corner. So I think we can adjust some of the money and, because
With the wall
where it's fallen in on the side tennis
and the
court.
new wall there.
I've never been an advocate in knocking out all those basketball courts, because I see kids on them, I see adolescents on them, I see
agree.
families on them.
Yeah.
So,
It's
It's
our
our
mall. Know that it is our mall. I know some of y'all your children have moved on, but it is our mall. And that is to say, in Boone, teenagers hang out at the mall or in the Harris Teeter parking lot. In Blowing Rock, the teenagers hang out on the basketball court and in the park. It's a beautiful
Which is
thing.
a good thing.
It is a
Well,
good thing,
what-
and it's lit, we put money into
Yeah.
lights, I mean,
I think
With
we ought to
talking
look.
to most of the people that are in this league, the problem that they were having is, and I didn't know when we first started this, and I was under the understanding that we had told Jennifer to allot a time. Well, she did not do that. Evidently, we didn't pervade that to her enough. And what they were asking is, and when I talked to them, I said, well, don't you have it for 2 hours in the morning? So you don't have very few kids up there early in the morning. Your pickleball players are there early. They were looking at if they had it like from 9 to 11, one court, one basketball court. We're not talking about all of them right now. We're just talking about one basketball court. They were happy, but they did not know that they had that court from 9 to 11.
So it's communication.
And well, there's really wasn't nobody there, you know. What what a lot of them were saying is if we did do it that way, and they had one of the courts from 9 to 11, because you're not really gonna get a lot of people down there, especially kids before 11 o'clock to play basketball. They're down there, they have their games, and they're gone by the time the park even starts getting many people in it. We didn't have a time dedicated for them. And that was one of the things that we're bringing up, you know. I thought we had set aside 2 hours for them in the mornings, early in the mornings for them to do this. And evidently, that did not get purveyed well enough, so, you know, they would go down there and, you know, if somebody was on there, they couldn't get to court, you know, so.
I think there's probably an easy way to handle that is in addition to making that point, expressing that stronger, signage on, you know, basketball court. If we're redoing both basketball courts, which is what's in the bond,
Right.
the lower basketball court is in the worst shape, and that's the one that's taking the $70,000 because it's falling off. But we go ahead and paint, I don't know if we can get 3 on there or not, but we go ahead and paint 2 pickleball courts on that in addition to the basketball boundary. And we put up signage to put up signage that says pickleball courts, on this court, pickleball courts are reserved from 8 to noon, and basketball court reserved from noon to whenever, something of that nature, and you've got one basketball court open all the time.
Right. That's the reason I was saying, you know, and then if we, you know, while we're working on the basketball court, it's no problem to work from 9 to 11 on either one. I mean, you're still gonna be able to handle your pickleball players and your basketball players, but you're only talking 2 hours in the morning at a very early time. They had a couple other things, and those are things I told them that they need to talk with Jennifer about, is, you know, they would like to see a small net put between the 2 courts, because to keep the ball from going from one court over into the other court, you know, and I said, small things and minuscule things like that, talk with Jennifer about, and, you know, and a lot of the things they're willing to help pay for also.
Let me just interject this one thing. I had a couple of people, and I was at a party and they brought this up. That you know, the town spends a lot of money on the kids. And the neighbor was saying, well, what about us? Us older folks, the senior citizens. There's more senior citizens in this town than there are kids. And all we're asking for is some pickleball courts. Is that too much to ask? I said, no, ask. Find a place for them. And they're willing to, as you just got through saying, they're even willing to help. If it costs us some money, it's not in the budget, they're willing to help pay for it. I said, okay, we'll put it on the agenda probably, and we'll talk about it. But I think we gotta keep all this stuff in perspective here a little bit, that they, the pool has printed
Right.
every year the hours for senior swims and for laps and stuff like that. That means no kids. No kids are in the pool. you can do the same thing
Well,
for that
I
basketball,
think so too.
you know?
Well, the
And they're
other,
also talking about possibly being a part of a much larger thing, is getting pickleball tournaments up here in Watauga County.
the other thing
Anyway,
that
that's
maybe
all.
you can ask your friends is, as
I'm
they.
not going to the party anymore.
Okay. Our courts are in such disrepair that they are looking at the basketball court, and they're getting older. And as people get older, they play pickleball instead of tennis. So we're pushing, the courts our tennis courts are so bad, and they're getting older, that they're looking at the basketball. So nobody's gonna be on the tennis courts.
So they-
Everybody's gonna be on the basketball courts. So we might, if we repair
Wait,
the
pickleball,
tennis,
you mean?
yes, and basketball. And nobody's on the tennis courts, so.
There's a lot of people that play on tennis courts.
But the tennis courts
Tennis
might
courts
need to
big.
be looked at,
You
resurfacing
would
the
know when you
tennis
see it.
courts
For dual purpose.
for dual purpose, like at Chatola and other places where
That's
they're
true.
using the tennis
It
courts.
does.
Then you've got two more.
That
and
makes
You've
you
got a total of 4. You'll
Right,
have a total of 4 by the time
So
you
we
take
do-
the
we
basketball
move this
court
on to
and have 2
Jennifer.
courts, and you take the tennis court, come pickleball courts, you've got a total, if you need them, 4 courts.
Let
right.
Jennifer come up with a plan.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
there already is a plan, it's in the bond, the council's already signed off on that, it's a matter of whether we need to change some things, because
yeah,
we can't do the tennis courts what we need to do to them for $5,000.
Right.
And the lower basketball court is going off the hill. It's gotta be totally dug out and started over, and that's why the expense on that one is $70,000. The expense on the other one to redo the base and put asphalt down again is around $25,000. Now, the actual cost, that's what's been allotted, that's estimate. So if we're going to redo the tennis courts as well, you know, we're probably gonna need to have those examined, what's underneath the AstroTurf. Probably dig up the layer of asphalt that's on it. I don't know if it's in good enough repair to resurface over the top or not, but when you start getting wide cracks, as soon as you put that
When you
new
pull
asphalt
that up,
down,
you're gonna be
you're gonna have
surprised how
wide
wide
cracks
those cracks
forming
are under
again.
But
And where are
remember,
they putting the ice skating rink for Winterfest? On the basketball court? I think we should ask for some of that profits.
They're not
They're
getting
not
profit. They're not
probably
getting
not.
They're
profit.
charging $10 a,
It's costing the chamber $5,000 to do that, and I'm donating personnel to help with it, to help them through this.
Isn't that
I think we're gonna be
It's
surprised.
isn't that the plastic court that they're coming up?
Something to
Yes,
do.
Yeah.
yes.
I
but
think
with their profits.
I think
it
there's
might
something
go
else
into
you need to
the plastic.
remember. We put money into Parks and Rec for the sidewalk. And we got a grant for $925,000. So we have extra money in that bond that has not been allocated. So could take some of that money
Yeah.
to redo the tennis courts and make it a more appropriate
That's a good point.
pickleball and tennis court.
Yeah.
Remember,
There's 73,000 for new stairways and sidewalk in the park. Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
the park,
we
the
did the Bass
sidewalk, the Bass
Lake.
Lake.
Remember, we put 1.2 million, and part of that
Yeah.
1.2 million was to go for the sidewalk, and then we got the grant for $900,000 or $925, whatever it was. Remember that? We actually put it in there.
Let's see.
We put Bass Lake in there, and then we got the grant, so we have an extra 900 floating.
I'm not sure that that's in Parks and Rec, though.
Well, it was
I'm
under,
thinking that's
You already have the
road,
money?
streetscape and-
That
You
was
already have
under,
sued-
that
we-
was under
we already have the
streets.
money?
we have the money, it's in the ban,
Wasn't-
it's in
that
the
was under
bond.
streets.
Oh, you mean from the grant?
Bass Lake, yeah.
I don't think that's been allocated because they're still doing the
Oh, it's
engineering plan.
reimbursement?
Yeah.
We have 232,000 in streets and roads for that sidewalk.
That's what we have to
That's
pay.
what we're paying.
But we had 1.2 million that we originally put in the bond for that sidewalk.
And
Y'all
that was,
remember
that
that?
was from park, that was from paving and sidewalk.
I think it was under pavement and sidewalks. So,
Well, but that's a different section of the bond. You
Yeah,
can't
we can't
spend
put it
out of
towards
there
Parks
for
and Rec.
Parks
Right.
Uh,
It's been dedicated.
even if it's,
You can't do it.
Make sure it wasn't part of Parks and Rec.
It wasn't,
No,
it
I
wasn't.
think you'd have to go back with get the citizens to vote on any kind of change like that.
I know you can't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do that. Well, I think we need to look at, if we're having this interest in it, I think we need to maybe re-look at how much money Parks and Rec has and reallocate them.
Now,
And see
how,
what,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
How bad is the middle court? Because there is
Middle court.
25,000 allocated for that.
For the
So
big one, this
I
actually
wonder
the
if,
biggest one.
It's not the
The
basketball.
big one, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's cracked up too. We had a hard time finding a place to put the pickleball court on, mark it off.
because I wondered if the tennis court was a higher need, if the lower basketball court is resurfaced, if the tennis court might be a higher need.
It very well be, you know, we probably need to do a little homework and see what it would cost us to redo the tennis courts. I like the idea of putting, we've got 2 tennis courts, no, we've got 2 or 1?
Two.
2. If we have one of those dedicated to tennis all the time and one of them dedicated to pickleball with 2 courts on it, if there's a way to do that where they won't be running into one another, there, and then marking with the new new basketball court that's gonna have to be built, and maybe leave the upper basketball court for another time.
I think the multi-use.
Do you
is the way to
Does
go.
pickleball, do you put 2 pickleball on 1 tennis court?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
Do
can't, no, you can put, yeah, one tennis court, and one, yeah, you can put 2 pickleball courts on a tennis, on a regular tennis court.
So you could really have 4
Four, that's-
pickleball and 2 tennis
Exactly.
courts.
You gotta have a boundary somehow between
Well, you've
them.
got the
Right.
one initially,
That's
all you
nothing
have to do
more
is put a
It's
net up.
nothing more than a pole,
Yeah,
and then string in a
connecting.
net and tighten it.
Well, not if you're using one as a dedicated a tennis court, because that's gonna be this way, and the pickleball court's gonna have to be this way.
Exactly.
So they're
Yeah.
long and thin?
No, you, like this, you got this.
They're short and
Here's your
narrow.
tennis court, you're gonna have, here's the net right now, see the net right there? This is your pickleball court, 2 of them, one here and one there.
Yeah, on either side of the net that's
On
already
each side
up.
of the net.
It's already up.
What ours looks like.
But you're still
Go
gonna
to
have to put a
Chatola, they've already
net.
got it set up.
And
You
then
got,
on
you
your
still have to put a
basketball
net
courts,
this way.
You do it this way.
That's the configuration of our tennis courts, isn't it? Yes. All right.
Well,
So
yeah,
if you
there's a
use
net
it-
that goes down this way.
No.
No.
This-
No, the net
this is
goes
the
sideways.
The net goes
This is the
sideways.
net.
How many tennis courts do you have?
2.
2.
There's just
Because
like-
there's no net
Maybe
that
Maybe
divides
you need to
them
look
up.
into
So
fixing
if you
it.
use this
Get
one
more
for tennis,
Bang for your buck.
use this one for tennis, you're going this way. If you're using this one to pickleball, they're gonna be playing this way.
No, I think what they're saying is tennis, pickleball.
People didn't know what they were doing.
Tennis,
Pickleball.
But go ahead and do the
No, I don't
tennis.
think we're talking 4 courts on the tennis
No,
court.
we're
that's
not.
what
We're
Chatola
talking
has.
between the basketball court and the tennis court.
We're doing one of these courts, one of these tennis courts that comes tennis court, come pickleball.
2 pickleball?
2 pickleball.
Yeah.
Then you got a basketball, this
Right.
one that's falling off the hill. Okay, here's your basketball thing like that, right? So now you're gonna put in 2 pickleball courts that can be used down there on a certain time,
That was not a problem.
right?
Right.
So that's not a problem. So now you got 1, 2, 3, 4 pickleball courts, okay?
5,
Now,
6.
say that you get a say you get a tournament up here. Watauga County, Avery, pickleball. So now, if you wanted to, you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
That's what I said.
for the weekend, that's it.
I would
I
go
agree.
to
I think we
Chatola.
need to do.
And everybody's happy.
I agree with Jim.
On
I
the
agree with,
courts,
I
it's already
think
marked off.
Ed
It's
mentioned
not a big deal.
multi-use.
No, it isn't, and everybody's happy.
Let's go ahead, maybe defer
I
this
love
to
that.
Jennifer, let her come up with a plan. What do you think, Ed?
Just
I'll work on it with Jennifer and Doug, our engineer.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, don't you?
See the space. The only thing I was saying though is that the 2 tennis courts are side by side.
Yeah.
If you're gonna reserve one of them for tennis and the other, so that the other 2 can be pickleball,
It
they're
doesn't
gonna be
matter.
running into each other.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
It will
matter.
to the players.
No, they play tennis and pickleball side by side at Chatola all the time. Everybody's happy. It's not a big deal. Yeah,
All right. Okay. Moving on.
they know how to handle it. They do it. They can do it.
All right. The next one was extending Wi-Fi, and I just want to give you a report there. You know, we have Wi-Fi throughout Main Street, public Wi-Fi, and this this was an agenda item that somebody asked for, I don't remember who, and we have we were told that we had received a grant from the ARC, Appalachian Regional Commission, to expand our Wi-Fi down onto Sunset, down to Ransom. And I was told about that the first day I started, that we had been awarded that. However, I've made a half dozen phone calls in the past year I've been here, and every time I call is, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. I talked to Olivia Collier last week. She is the person who is in charge of the ARC for North Carolina. And she said, it is coming. And I said, yes, I know. It's coming. When?
Did you say so is Christmas?
Yeah, when? So she told me that the funds had not been released to date, and that they are supposedly in the possession of the federal co-chair in Washington, D.C., waiting signature. And she said she would see if she could get them to move on. That is $9,100 in grant money to expand Wi-Fi on Sunset. Now, I don't know that that was the only thing that someone was interested in on Wi-Fi, so was it you, Virginia?
Yeah, I asked about it. And I remember that the town was going to put, is it broadband or something in all the town buildings? That was just done, updated. That was a few months
We
ago.
have town hall Wi-Fi, we have park Wi-Fi, we have Parks and Rec Wi-Fi. Not all of it's open. Everything I just named has a way for the public to be.
Not for the public. Or do we have, does the town have everything they need as far as broadband, Wi-Fi, all of that? Are we, the town,
Not the town government or the town
the
itself?
government?
Yes, the government, we have fiber that has been run to the, recently, we have fiber now to town hall, we have fiber to the police department, to the Parks and Rec, to the wastewater treatment plant, to the water treatment plant,
How about
to
the
the fire
library?
department.
How about the library?
The library's not town's.
The town owns that
No.
property.
I mean, we
They have a
have a
lease.
99-year lease. So it's out of our care, custody, and control. They own from Main Street to where the former sidewalk was, where the picnic tables were. They have a leasehold interest. We don't technically have our own authority to do anything on their property. We own it, but they have a leasehold interest, which is as good as a fee simple interest.
You would have to take that up with
The library is the one who needs to work on providing Wi-Fi for people, patrons of the library.
One of the biggest complaints that I hear is that our library doesn't have Wi-Fi.
That's not
I
us.
hear they don't have a computer.
So they don't have a computer.
And that's the
But
But they
that's the
wouldn't have
library.
Wi-Fi
And they don't want
from what we have on Main Street.
They would. They
They should
can get
have
into
Wi-Fi
the main-
now.
The public Wi-Fi.
That's a guess.
Is the
Huh?
public,
Is
the
it
public
yes?
Wi-Fi that you're talking about, is that the one that's supplied by Blue Ridge Mountain Club?
No,
No, that never worked.
Yeah, it's awful.
When
We're
we
talking
got the
about-
sales tax
Virginia, are you
revenue,
talking about,
we put that money
fiber
into
optic?
Wi-Fi in the park and then down Main Street. So they should have it as guests now.
yeah, I would think, I mean, we have access to like the Memorial Park Wi-Fi in Town Hall. So I would assume, and you know, you get inside those rock walls and it may be spotty, but they should have the same access to the public Wi-Fi as anybody else.
How about the fiber optic? Don't we have that?
The fiber
That was
optic
for
is
us.
the vehicle through which the signal is sent, and that's what we just recently had done at our other buildings.
Well, I mean, are you asking if we would provide a tap onto the fiber optic for the library?
No, that they would run it to I know that I hear what you're saying, they have a 99-year lease, but when you get that building back,
We won't get that building
It's
back,
not-
it's renewable.
Well, I'm asking if we have fiber optic at Town Hall,
yes,
they don't,
right.
can they not tie on to that if they wanted to?
We reduce our bandwidth by doing it.
Okay, well,
We reduce what we're paying for to provide it for them if we did that, but yes, it can be done.
Why don't they
It's-
get
It's
in
very
there?
simple. All they have to do, if they want to put a Wi-Fi, they can do a satellite antenna if they have to, small antenna up on Green Hill. They can do a satellite antenna right out the window.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
That was a
Really,
joke.
all
With
they
the
have
Wi-Fi.
to do is, they have to call Charter and say, we'd like to have Wi-Fi. I mean, we'd like to have
I think they get by for about
broadband. Charter
70
will
foot.
run a cable in there and provide a modem for them, but they don't have anything to use it for. They don't have a computer,
Yeah,
so
they need a
somebody
computer.
that's interested in having a computer and making that available to the public would be necessary as well.
are we saying they still
And-
use the Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah,
They do.
yeah, they do.
And I'm not convinced they want it. Have you asked if they want to expand it?
It's a town building, so to me, you know,
But you understand now that we own the property it's sitting on, but that it
And
is.
we
I
didn't,
do
we didn't build
understand
the
that.
building.
No, they didn't build the
I don't know if
building.
you're thinking that we did, that they built the building.
They're responsible for that building and all content.
Just like
It's
Brown.
probably a triple net lease, is it not?
They own their building, it's not a lease, they own their building.
Who
The
owns
only
the
thing they're
property it's
leasing
sitting
is the
on?
The
ground.
town
the
owns the
town
property.
does.
Yeah, we own the ground.
But see, if this is their bailiwick, this is their deal, we have nothing to do with it and haven't since my granddaddy was mayor.
Okay, but there is a perception
So,
that the town, that is a town
Right.
community library. And
And-
that we don't have any, I mean, it's
So we
like,
don't care about it?
Dewey Decimal.
that they don't, that it's not updated,
Right.
it's Dewey Decimal, it has no Wi-Fi, it has no
Here- here's-
computers, that the
So-
town
but that's easy. Virginia. All you need to do is get with the group and say, there's enough people in town that
I don't think they want them in the library.
they don't want computers in the library.
Well, I mean,
If they don't want it, you can't do anything about it.
right,
I have talked with some of them over there, and they seem to have no interest whatsoever in electronics and having a computer there, and the public may want to have a computer in there, but if the people who own and operate it don't,
I get that, but it's very misleading for someone that comes up here that this is a town thing. You know, we're generous with basketballs and tennis rackets and pickleball courts, and all of that is free and open to the public
and public Wi-Fi.
and public Wi-Fi. And here, right here, beside Town Hall is a library that is Fred Flintstone.
But part of your
I mean,
job as a town council person is to educate people, because a
It
lot of
is.
people don't understand
I
what,
know,
how all this works.
right.
And so, I mean, you're just gonna have, that's part of what we do is,
Because it's a mute point, because there's nothing we can do about it.
I hear you.
We could provide them with broadband, we could provide them with a computer, and then we're gonna be maintaining the computer, and every time there's something wrong, we're gonna be paying for IT for their
No,
computer.
no.
I'm
People
just seeing it
don't
as
want
a
their
pit.
computers. They just want to sit in the town's library and
use Wi-Fi.
use the
They
Wi-Fi.
should be able to do that already.
Like
Yeah.
any, no, they don't have, I mean, it's harder to, access in the building and.
How about in the back? Have you tried it in the back?
Well, I don't know that, I mean, you barely could get your meetings in the back there. Are they gonna let the
Well,
public
I
back
haven't tried to
there?
use my phone or anything over there, so I don't know. I'll have to give it a try, but
I don't know if I'm,
I
yeah.
understand what you're saying, and that is, there's a perception that it's ours, and somehow we gotta, help people do away with that perception, because, you're right, it's dinosaur.
Well, I don't think, yeah, okay, that's for later.
But shall we move on to
Yes.
the old fire station?
Old Fire Department update, the Village Foundation's continuing to do their research, and they're continuing to gather their data and examine the feasibility of using the old firehouse. I don't remember exactly what month it was. I'm thinking it might have been May of 2017 when council granted them 1 year to do the study to see if that was something that was going to be feasible. I can tell you from having participated in their meetings that everything they're doing is contingent upon knowing that the town would lease that building to them for $1 per year. And, you know, nobody's ever said that was going to happen. So I don't know, I know that they have, Jim Pitts has mentioned to me that they were going to be talking with Bowen Rock Elementary School again, that there may be an opportunity there, but I just don't know how far it's going to go.
Okay, I was in the chamber board meeting the other day, and pretty much where this stands is they've had an individual look at the feasibility of doing the fire station. Now they're crunching the numbers. That's going to be the big take on this one. I don't know, they say $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. Jim was meeting with the superintendent of Watauga County Schools. What is today?
Not really.
Yeah, what's today? Wednesday?
Today's Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. One day the end of last week, he was supposed to meet with Elliott to see if Watauga County, because as he stated, the auditorium's not being used at our school. So that's pretty much what I was told last week where it stands. It's just still all up in the air.
What I'm sensing is that they're thinking that the old fire station building is not going to be adequate to do what they want it to do. So I don't know if it's going to, if in the end they're going to come back and say thanks but no thanks, even if you were agreeable on leasing it. So that's.
This is separate from what the money that somebody's raising for the Parks and Rec,
Yes.
right? I mean, that whole building is all kind of together, but
No,
That's
that's a separate
separated.
building.
that's but it runs together with
They're-
the
they're-
police station.
They are
No, they're
detached.
separated.
They are?
There's an alleyway that goes in between the buildings.
Okay, I guess I need to look at
Go up the
what
sidewalk.
the buildings
If you
are.
go up the sidewalk, you can see.
Who are we, this says Village Foundation. Mayor saying the chamber.
The Village
Who are we
Foundation.
talking
The
with?
Village Foundation is a nonprofit organization of the Blood Rock Chamber. That was started initially to purchase my grandparents' old home for the chamber offices, okay? That's how the Village Foundation got started. And then it morphed from there into community development and so on.
Well, then it should say the Village Foundation at all.
Well, here, the Village Foundation is a 501c3. The Chamber of Commerce is a 501c6. A 501c3 is totally exempt from taxes. A 501c6 is not totally exempt from taxes, okay? But that's why the Village Foundation was started, and that's why they're the ones, I think they're the ones who are going to do the auditorium. I don't know, it's kind of,
When is the lease up? When's the year up?
I'd have to look, I think it's in May. Does anybody else recall?
I think it's somewhere around May.
Not right, yeah. Yeah.
The lease for,
Not the
We gave
lease,
them a
but the
year.
study period.
Oh.
Give them a year to study
the
it.
firehouse is just being used for storage right now?
It is the
How is it being
building
used?
from which our landscaping department stores their equipment and all their materials. for the work they do all over town.
He was,
There's rocks in there, there's straw in there, there's seed
seen
in there,
plants
there's
in the
tools,
bays.
tractors.
The back part of it's the bays, yeah.
so the way I read this, are they saying to us, they're at a dead end unless we say we're gonna give it to them for $1 a year?
Well,
Is that
what I have been told is that in order to put the kind of money into it, that it needs to be made into the facility they want. I've heard numbers of up to $2 million. I can't imagine it'd be that high, but let's say it was 1 million, they're saying we can't enter into an agreement where we're gonna have to spend $1 million and we're not gonna have a guarantee that you're gonna provide that building at $1 or whatever for 10, well, they said we really need it for 20 years. And so they, that's a big decision whether you want to tie up a building for 20 years for $1 a year or do, the fact is that if they end up getting that building to use for theater, we do have to find a place to put.
And $1 million bucks.
Yeah.
And, we've got to put our landscaping crew and all their equipment, all the materials, all their supplies somewhere.
That's the huge.
Well, hopefully,
Well, if
I
we had
think-
to, we could put it out near where the public works is, if we had to. But I wouldn't buy any long playing records on this deal.
honestly, I
There's not a
think,
gun big enough held to my temple to make me give them that building for $1 a year, and you can put that right down.
well, I think we all know the perfect scenario is the school auditorium, and hopefully the chamber will be able to work something out with Dr. Elliott, and it'll be a new point.
Well,
Right now,
the
there's nothing
theater
we
was
can
so successful, Mayor, that it left town.
Well, some of that could be the director of that,
I'm not saying.
Some of it,
could have been,
how about all of it?
I don't know, I'm not.
Okay, shall we move on to Laurel Lane closure?
I wanted to just give you a heads up on this. You're not being asked to do anything here. The Laurel Lane project, also a project to the Village Foundation, is advancing, and they're ready to bring phase 2. They have brought phase 2 to BRAC already. BRAC has given is going to be providing a recommendation to council for moving forward, letting them move forward with their plan. Not in total though. BRAC had a problem with part of it, you'll hear about. But anyway, so I got a phone call that says, we're gonna need to close Laurel Lane for probably 8 weeks. And I said, I don't know if that's gonna get it. And so I wanted to give you a heads up that that's what they're gonna be probably asking for.
They better start today.
Just that one block. So from Maine to Wallingford.
Is that for a new title search?
Maybe. So, I don't know how anybody's gonna feel about that. I'm being said, it's being said to me, well, for what we're doing for the town, at no charge to the town, we think that's a small price to pay, that it would be closed for up to that long,
Not in June.
And inconvenience all the residents that live behind them.
How about Vista Roca?
Yeah.
How about the Schwann?
The male swan?
There goes dating season.
So, it's just a heads up that you're going to hear a presentation from the Village Foundation at your February council meeting, getting your blessing.
Are we gonna have time to hear something in February?
It's gonna be a whole
It's
night.
gonna be a long night. Welcome to the 10 o'clock
Midnight.
meeting.
Midnight.
So, anyway,
Vanilla mushroom
that was
deal?
already scheduled. I think they kind of needed them because they're trying to make their plans to move forward. This is the big part of this is the paver, the brick pavers that will be put down in place of the asphalt from the where the front of the present wall is, the median wall, back to Main Street. And I think when they originally showed this to council, there was a third phase that continued those pavers out into Main Street all the way to the other side, and they have dropped that altogether. So they,
8 weeks,
Well, just be prepared.
8 weeks.
We're gonna be hearing from Cobb, Mr. Roca. We're gonna be hearing heavy from the maybe residents, so.
We
need-
should.
We need to, yeah, and we need to be thinking about a plan, a detour plan, well marked.
Somebody can't do half of it one time.
I was getting ready to say, a lot of people are just on the
I
close
think
one
that's
lane
a
at a
possibility,
time.
we mentioned that as well, but that only gives you one lane of traffic.
Right.
Because of the wall, but that is something to consider. But it was kind of hard for me to believe when he was talking about 8 weeks too, and so I started thinking about the paver job we just had done,
Yeah.
and watching how they did that. They spent 3 weeks on prep, putting in dirt and packing the dirt, and putting in crush and run and packing it, so on that small project, and this is the big pavers, the ones that you can drive on. It's a much bigger area, so maybe it would take that long. Maybe it could be done in 6 weeks. They don't know. They're waiting to bring this to council, and I know they've already talked to at least 2 paver companies, and I think they're seeking prices.
That was the last I heard too.
Okay.
Can we take a quick 6.5 minute break?
Do we need to check out now? Have y'all checked
Oh.
out?
Yeah, if anybody's, they probably need to check
Check
out.
out, check out.
Okay.
Get your stuff put in the
Okay.
car.
So we'll take about 5 minutes.
To check out?
We can check out in 5
10 minutes.
and
Do the best you can do, okay? You gonna bring the critter in here with
We
us?
should told it.
Y'all check your tires, George picked up a nail, and they say it's really bad around here.
No, I mean, no, I put it
Our
out.
car let us know.
Oh, are you
Look,
kidding?
check-
That's all I need.
What do you mean?
Check your tires.
Oh, man.
That's awful.
So he's going to get it
It's that
fixed.
Swan, it's that Mel Swan. He heard our conversations.
On their streets.
She's upset.
He's upset.
Those are streets?
Eight minutes.
Oh, I don't know. I can't think others.
Too much.
I've got some information on that.
There's no way, that's not fair to people.
When you
And you know, they can't do that.
Some with
After the
research
street.
such as this, some under.
I've got some already searched this, but I've got some information
We're gonna
again.
put on the February agenda about the Swan.
Bull rushes will take care of it.
I'll remind you to,
Will you?
yes, I will. I got distracted this morning until this.
I thought it was part of the traffic.